Hey guys, Sarek here, and today we finally have a deck with the new Maximum Gold reprints that came out last week. So, it is, of course, one of the big hitters of Maximum Gold. It's Eldlich, and not just Eldlich, Eldlich-Invoked. So, before I get into the profile, please like, subscribe, share this video around. It really helps to get more and more views, and let's get into it. We have 2 copies of Eldlich the Golden HIMBO himself. Now, you have to run the alt art because, I mean, just look at those thighs. There are things that I can't discuss on YouTube that I want Eldlich to do to me. You can send this card and 1 spell trap from your hand to the graveyard, target 1 card on the field, send it to the graveyard. If it's in your graveyard, send 1 spell trap you control to the graveyard, add this card to your hand, then special summon 1 zombie monster from your hand. And until the end of your opponent's next turn, it gains 1000 attack and defense, cannot be destroyed by card effects. This card used to be £100 a copy when it was first released in Secret Slayers. It's now had 2 reprints, both in gold rare, but this one has sexy artwork, so that's why we're using it, and I want him to step on me. Other than that, he's recursive, he's removal, he's a big chonker, and he makes rank 10s. And he's obviously very easy to search, because most of our spells and traps do that. And for what we're mixing our Eldlich with, we're of course mixing it with Invoked. So for the first time ever on one of these budget profiles, you can now normal summon Aleister too. If you don't know what Aleister does, where have you been for the past 3 years? You can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, target 1 fusion monster you control, gains 1000 attack and defense till the end of the turn, so a nice sort of combat trick, quick effect, honest there. And then, if it's normal, summoned, or flipped face up, add 1 invocation from your deck to your hand. Very simple, very effective, gives you access to mechaba and all the other invoked fusions. That's why you play it. It's really good. And it now costs about the same price as Invocation, which is weird. 3 copies of Effect Veiler. This is our hand trapper's choice. We could run lots of different hand traps, but Veiler's a very nice, safe, cheap, inexpensive one that we can run. It's also a light monster for help with making mechabas if you've already banished things like your secure Gardna, and you don't want to banish Eldliches, so that is also nice. So, that is all the monsters we're running. We now get onto our spells and traps. And of course, we have 3 Cursed Eldland. Now, this spiked to a ridiculous level when Eldlich got his first reprint, back in the original Maximum Gold. It was going for about £25 to £30 a copy. Now it's much cheaper thanks to the reprint in El Dorado. So, you cannot declare attacks except with zombie monsters, yada. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. Pay 800 life points, add 1 Eldlich monster or Golden Land spell trap from your deck to your hand. If this card is sent from the spell trap zone to the graveyard, you can send 1 Eldlich monster or Golden Land spell trap from your deck to the graveyard. This is how you search everything in your deck. It searches Eldlich, it searches Golden Land cards, which in turn search your Eldlichs. So it's very simple, very effective way of ensuring that you get your Eldlich pieces into rotation. Very good card, and that's why you run 3. We have 1 Eldlich of Black Awakening. This card gets Eldlich straight out of the deck, but it does lock you into zombie monsters afterwards. So if you've drawn Aleister and Black Awakening, please do your invoked play first, otherwise you will be very sad. Then all of the Eldlichs have an effect that you can banish the card from your graveyard and set a Golden Land spell trap from your deck. Note you can only use 1 of the effects per turn. So if you summon Eldlich with Black Awakening, you can't banish it. If you banish it, you can't summon. 1 Eldlich of White Destiny. This does the same as Black Awakening, but it goes from the hand or graveyard. And it's also quick play. Other than that, it's very similar. Banish it to set Golden Land spell trap directly from the deck. And you can only use 1 of the effects per turn. 2 copies of everyone's favourite fusion card, Invocation. Fusion summon 1 fusion monster. using monsters from your hand as fusion material. If summoning an invoked fusion monster, you can also banish from your field and either player's graveyard. And if it's in the graveyard, target one of your banished aleister the invokers, shuffle this card, so Invocation, into the deck, and add the aleister to your hand. It recycles itself, it fuses from both players' graveyard to give you all the attribute access you need. It puts aleister back in your hand for the 1000 attack point boost or to summon it the next turn. And give you a monster negate with mechaba. It's really, really good, but it's really, really easy to access, so we only need 2. If you like, you could bump it up to 3. The card is actually affordable now, so that is actually a reasonable concept for some people. But yes, Invocation, it's one of the best fusion spells ever printed, along with things like Shaddoll Fusion. It's one of the heart and souls of the deck. It's why the deck is Eldlich-Invoked, funnily enough. Three copies of Magical Meltdown. This searches aleister, which searches Invocation, and that's how Invoked works. It also says no to anything that your opponent wants to do to stop you making mechaba. So they have to say no to this card specifically, otherwise you are getting mechaba on the field whether they like it or not. Brilliant field spell, does some horrifically broken things. Please, please, please look up the rulings regarding Magical Meltdown. I could talk for 25 minutes about all the ruling nightmares that Magical Meltdown involves. There are plenty of videos on YouTube that do a much better job than I could at explaining how this card works. Please look it up, because either if you're playing the deck or if you're playing against this deck, you need to know when you can and can't interact with your opponent. 1 terraforming. This finds Magical Meltdown, which finds aleister, which finds Invocation. This is why you always have access to Invocation. 1 Called by the Grave, because when you're starting out with this deck, you're not going to be very good at it yet, so you won't always draw the Invocation. So you need to have Called by the Grave in case they ash your aleister, because you need to get hold of that Invocation. As you get better with the deck, you can consider cutting this because you'll draw the Invocation more often. Three copies of Elixir of Scarlet Sanguine. This is the trap version of Black Awakening. Summons a zombie monster from your deck or grave. Only if you control no Eldlich monsters, you can only summon Eldlich monsters. Then it will lock you into special summoning monsters except zombie monsters for the rest of the turn. And then banish it, set a golden land directly from the deck. You can only use 1 of these effects per turn and only once that turn. You've heard this all before. Scarlet Sanguine is how you trigger the bonus effects on your continuous trap cards. It's how you get Eldlich into rotation on your opponent's turn. It's really, really good. We like Scarlet Sanguine. 3 Huck Arrow of the Golden Land. Now, this and Conquistador, the next card, are very, very similar. They special summon themselves as a normal monster that is a light zombie with that's level 5. Card is still a trap. Then if you control Eldlich the Golden Lord, you can banish 1 card from either graveyard. So this gives you some important graveyard interaction. And obviously you can activate Huck Arrow and chain Scarlet Sanguine to the activation, so you summon the Eldlich, and then when Huck Arrow resolves, you'll get the banish. The same goes for Conquistador, the next card. Very important. It gives you some link fodder. It gives you light materials for aleister. It gives you it gives you extra beaters. It gives you graveyard hate. And, of course, it sets Eldlixirs from your deck. Then we have, wouldn't you guess, Conquistador of the Golden Land. Does a very, very similar thing, only this destroys cards on the field. It does not target the card destroyed, and it destroys face-up cards. So it can destroy spells, traps, it can destroy monsters, but no, it can only destroy face-up cards. Other than that, very, very similar. You can still chain Scarlet Sanguine or White Destiny to this to get the Eldlich onto the field, and it still has the banishing from the grave to set the Eldlich spell trap from your deck. We have 3 copies of Golden Land Forever. This is an omni-negate while you control an Eldlich monster. That is as simple as. Obviously, you contribute your Conquistador, your Hawkeros, you contribute your Eldlich, but it's a 1-for-1 omni-negate, but you get bonuses for having your Conquistador, your Eldlich can come back, and your traps obviously banish themselves to search things, so you hopefully end out on top. And of course, it's searchable. We have 3 copies of Summon Limit. This is a new reprint from Maximum Gold as well. And I'm rocking 2 copies of Light of Destruction Summon Limit, and then the 1 El Dorado Summon Limit. Neither player can summon more than 2 times per turn. It's incredible to lock your opponent out on things. It hits a lot of decks really, really hard. You don't care as long as you've got mechaba and a way to access Eldlich. You're often summoning Eldlich on your opponent's turn anyway, so that means that you sort of get twice as many summons as your opponent. Yeah, it's very, very strong. And people will not like you for playing it, but it's a good card. We have 3 copies of Gozen Match. Eldlich and mechaba are both light monsters, so Gozen Match is really, really good here. Because, yeah, we can still all summon our Eldliches under Gozen Match when we've got a mechaba out. Obviously, it hurts a lot of the combo decks that run through lots of different attributes. Sword Soul doesn't like this. If anyone's still playing things like some of the Drytron boards, yes, they mainly go through lights, but they may find themselves having to go a slightly clunkier way. The Dogmatica Invoked Shaddolls will find themselves getting stuck on the light or the dark side of the decks. Very, very good card. PK might struggle to combo through some of it. Yes, again, a majority of their deck is dark, but they can't make up. If you flip this after they've made Apollousa, they're now locked into wind monsters, and so on. And then finally, for when you just really, really need to say no, we have 2 copies of Solemn Judgment. You know what Solemn Judgment does. Solemn Judgment says no, and sometimes you just need to say no. So that is our main deck, and now for our extra deck, we have 2 copies of Invoked Mechaba. This also got reprinted in Maximum Gold, which makes it much, much cheaper. Aleister and 1 Light Monster, which is how most of the Invoked fusions are made. Aleister plus a particular attribute. Once per turn during either player's turn, when a spell, trap, or monster effect is activated, send the same type of card, monster, spell, or trap from your hand to the graveyard, negate the activation, and if you do, banish that card. Very simple, very effective. Invocation obviously always gives you back the copy of Aleister that you used to summon it, so you should always have a monster to discard. And yes, it's just a very, very simple and effective Omni-Negate in the deck. 1 Invoked Raijin. This is summoned, obviously, with Aleister and a Wind monster, and has a quick effect, Book of Moon. Again, most of the other Invoked monsters you're not going to be making all that much, but they're in there to give you options because the extra deck is very, very loose. If we had a bit more cash in the budget, we would be including things like Pot of Extravagance in this deck. But despite the reprint, that is still £15 to £20 a copy, so I held off on that this time. 1 Invoked Purgatrio. This helps with some OTKs because it gains lots of attack. It can obviously attack all monsters and it does piercing damage. This is obviously a really, really good card to break through big defensive boards with lots of negations, because obviously if you have Meltdown out, they can't negate your Invocation. And it can be fused with an Ash Blossom, which your opponent is almost certainly playing. And it can just break through some really, really big boards by itself, because none of its effects activate. 1 Invoked Orgoides, the newest Invoked fusion. If it's special summoned or a monster is special summoned, target 1 monster your opponent controls, destroy it. And then once per turn, banish 1 fusion monster from the graveyard. It gains attack equal to that banished monster's attack. So this helps break opponents' combos. It's another sort of nice floodgatey piece that we can put out with some more destruction. And obviously it destroys on summon as well, and it can also become nice and beefy if we need to get the OTK. One Invoked Kaliga. This is a nice lock piece. Again, only attempt to activate one monster effect per turn and can only attack with one monster during each battle phase. So if you can protect the Kaliga, then your opponent can find themselves locked out of the game very, very quickly. Especially in combination with things like Goes and Match, Summon Limit, etc. One Invoked Elysium. This just nukes the field of a specific attribute. You can target itself, or you can banish from the graveyard. If your opponent's playing a particularly attribute-heavy build, it can be very, very difficult to play around Elysium if they don't have the right number of negates. And also that effect is quick, so you can use it whenever you like. So you can use it mid-combo before they've made their Appaloosa. One Eldlich the Mad Golden Lord. Now this is in here as a corner case. Also, if you decided to play this deck, you could put Super Poly or similar in this deck, and Zombie World, etc. But this is in here if you have Eldlich in the graveyard, both your copies of Eldlich in the graveyard, and no way of getting them out of the graveyard, and you have access to Invocation. So, yes, Eldlich can bring itself out, but you might need a bit more attack. You might need to beat over something like a UCT, or similar. You can obviously take control of things if you have access to Conquistador or Huaquero, and similar. It's just a big, big boy that we can bring out in dire need, and also is a really, really nice target for things if we decide to play in the side, Super Poly and Zombie World. Now, we have the Nightmares. We know what Nightmares do. Now, these are in every deck ever because they're cheap, they're good, they're generic, and you just having the options is really, really nice. We then have Secure Gardna and Salamangreat Almiraj. These are our two link-off targets for aleister. So you summon aleister, link off into Almiraj, link off into Secure Gardna. You now have Invocation, a light monster, and an aleister, so you can now make your mechaba. Very, very simple, very, very easy. You could run Artemis the Magister's Mood Maiden if you want an extra deck slot for something, but that is currently £25 to £30 a copy, again, so that's why we're running these. And then finally, we have our rank 10s. We have one Gustav Max. This helps us win in time, is also a nice big 3k body, and it obviously deals 2000 damage. We have one Superdora. Superdora can make monsters immune to card effects except for their own. It can be very, very, very useful, and it also has a nice 4k defense. And then finally, we have Juggernaut Liber, which is an absolute OTK machine. So you summon it by using a rank 10 machine monster, so either of the others obviously works, and then you can detach one material from this card, gains 2000 attack and defense, and you can only attack with it, but it can attack up to the number of materials it has +1. So you could be getting 3-4 attacks with this easily. So, that is the deck. What a run-through of Eldlich there. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that more people enjoy playing Eldlich now that they can actually afford to play it. And I will see you again soon with more decks that Maximum Gold has made much cheaper. Thanks for watching.